last Giants topic, apparently in on a wide receiver on the pro market. I put Brandon Ayuk on the graphic because he was mentioned in a article over on Empire Sports. So what's the play here?
Yeah, the idea here is that the Giants are adamant that they want to add wide receiver talent before the NFL season. But because of the uncertainty at quarterback, there's speculation. Okay, are they going to draft one? Are they going to draft a wide receiver at the top? While it seems very likely that they just stick and pick at 6 and they take the best wide receiver on the board, whether it be Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors or Modunze, it's also possible that they do make that move to go ahead and get a quarterback. So then what do they do at wide receiver? Because I don't think that we could feel comfortable going into 2024 with Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, and Wandale Robinson being our receiving core. Those are all good guys. I like all of those players. Like Wandale is a great route runner from the slot. Slayton's a great field stretcher on the outside for 700 yards a season. Like he's great at that. And of course, Jalen Hyatt, of course, being your big play threat. But how much can those guys really develop? What can they really do for you long term? I'm not so sure. The Giants need an alpha dog in that wide receiver core. And I think that Brandon Ayuk makes a lot of sense because the 49ers probably moving on from one of those wide receivers, don't want to pay both of them, Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. But when would you make that trade for an Ayuk? In my opinion, I think it's probably a training camp deal. I think that the Giants could wait that long to find their wide receiver one. And then in doing so, they don't have to sacrifice draft capital from this year's draft. The Giants only have 6 picks, so trading away one of those picks to get a Brandon Ayuk, it's not ideal. They need more depth. They need more young talents and rookie contracts in this team. So they have to keep those picks, maybe even trade down at some point to add more picks. But if you wait until training camp to try and make that deal, you could send a 2025 second round pick or something of the sorts. Maybe that's how you bring in a Brandon Ayuk or some other alpha dog wide receiver to hopefully fix this offense. And then if you combine that with the fact that you probably do land a quarterback in the first round of this year's draft in this scenario, then you've got a quarterback of the future. You've got a top tier wide receiver. The Giants can actually go into 2024 in the regular season and feel like they might win some serious games this year.
Yeah, that was going to be my question for you. You kind of answered it with saying that could be a move that they make around training camp. Was would you consider a trade back option in the draft? Because you'd be going a long way, but some sort of pick swap, whatever else to make it work, and Ayuk going the other way. Is that something you would consider, or you would rather stay put, get your pick in the top 10, and then maybe try to find a receiver after that in training camp, and then you're giving up 2025 capital?
Yeah, I'd rather give up the 2025 capital because, again, if I'm Joe Schoen, I don't know if I have that job in 2025. So I'm going to mortgage a little bit of the future to try and win right now, stay off the hot seat in 2024. So that's how I see it. But at the same time, with this wide receiver situation, this quarterback situation, it's paramount that the Giants find the quarterback to prevent Daniel Jones from getting on the field, as we mentioned earlier, with that injury guarantee. So they've got to find their quarterback in the first round. And it's going to probably cost them a pretty penny to trade up the 2 spots that they need to go to get that QB, but it's necessary. And then I think that in that scenario, you would rather give up some future capital and bring in a wide receiver around training camp instead. But it's also possible that a draft night trade happens. I believe that's what happened with A.J. Brown a couple of years ago when he was traded from Tennessee to Philadelphia. It happened during the night of the draft. So maybe we do see a situation like that with Brandon Ayuk, and that could unfold. Maybe the Giants give up their second round pick and they get Brandon Ayuk. But I just think with the lack of draft capital that the Giants have, if they're going to be trading it, it's got to be to go ahead and get that quarterback. And then you're going to have to mortgage some of that future capital if you want to find that wide receiver on the trade market.
Now you're discussing the lack of draft capital, and there was a tweet from Jordan Renan that the Giants listed the Giants as a potential team to move back in the NFL draft. I took that and ran with wanting the Jets to trade up with the New York Giants. But is that something that you would seriously consider, moving back to pick up more assets in this year's draft class?
Yes, I would definitely consider it, but it depends on who's on the board at 6, because the way that I feel about it is in 2021, the Giants made this decision to trade down from pick, what was that, 11, I think they had, something of the sorts. Yeah, pick 11 with the Chicago Bears. Bears move up, get Justin Fields. If you look at that trade now, all across the board, everybody lost. The Giants moved down. They got Kadarius Toney. He was off the team in 2 years. Of course, we know Justin Fields didn't pan out with the Bears. But the unwritten part of that story, or the unfocused on part of that story, is the fact that the Giants had Micah Parsons right there on the board to fill a major need for them, and they got cute and they traded down for extra draft capital in the future, and they missed on all those picks. So kind of subscribing now to the belief where if you've got a blue chip prospect on the board, you just take the blue chip prospect and you don't overthink it. So for the Giants picking at 6, Marvin Harrison Jr. is on the board, Malik Neighbors, those guys are blue chip. I'm not trading down if I have the ability to land one of those two guys. But if they're both taken and it's Rome Odunze versus a big haul of draft capital, then I'd start to debate that. I think that, Odunze maybe in that same tier, maybe not. And I think that's debatable. But I think that there is a world where the Giants decide, okay, we can get a first round pick this year. We can get second round pick this year and add a whole bunch of capital. A lot of needs to fill on this Giants team still. They got a lot of work done during free agency, but there's still a lot of work to do on this roster. So yeah, if there's no blue chip prospect on the board in the mind of Joe Schoen, I think that trading down makes a lot of sense for this team.
Yeah, I think there will be, though, because like how you list it, if you want to take one of Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors, if you assume that the 4 quarterbacks go first and then one of those wide receivers are going to be there, or then if not, if there's a scenario where both of the receivers go in the top 5, then one of the quarterbacks is going to be there, and I would think you just take the quarterback then. So as much as I would like, if I'm the Giants, I don't think I would want to trade back from that spot because you're either getting a quarterback or you're getting one of the 2 top receivers. So I personally would just stick in pick, but from the Jets fans side of things, they have a ton of different options that they could do in the NFL draft. If a team in whatever scenario, like the Giants, for instance, if they actually did want to move back and the price wasn't outlandish, it would be something that I would consider to move up to get a Neighbors or a Joe Alt or something like that. So from the Giants side, I don't really see it. I think if I'm them, I would rather just either take the quarterback, probably JJ McCarthy at 6, or take one of the 2 receivers. To me, I think that would go a long way rather than dropping back. You move back 4 spots, and then who are you taking at 10? Then
I guess then it becomes a conversation of Brock Bowers, but
yeah.
that doesn't really fill the Giants' needs in the way that a top wide receiver would.